What's up, Black Stars? So let's talk simple human psychology just for a moment. You know, people get wrapped up in the is versus ought argument. So many people are willing to ignore what is in favor of what ought to be. Now, what ought to be is what ought to be, and we should fight for it. That's what we debate over. That's why we have, politics. That's why we have religion. That's why we have philosophy. What ought to be is the eternal debate. We can postulate how people should behave, how people should treat each other, how people should have their relationships, how people should groom themselves, and what they should eat and all that. That's fine. But we have to deal with the reality of what is right now. And, this stems from a discussion I had with Elizabeth about heroes. And I'm a big fan of heroes. I think heroes are a good thing. She thinks that heroes are stupid and that people just need to be better people. It's the is versus ought argument. I think that we need heroes because humanity is a certain way, and it takes the bold few to rise above and fix what's broken. Heroes fix what's broken. It's all they do. They don't come into play until something is broken. What ought to be is the people who simply act better, do better, rise above, be better. Because they make a world of heroes not even necessary. It's an impossible dream. And the reason I say this is because it's human psychology. Humans are innately competitive. Resources are innately limited. And there will always be struggle and conflict. And there are always going to be circumstances that lead people to undercut, to cheat, to lie, to steal, to hoard, to be greedy. There are all sorts of things, behavioral things that will influence how people interact with each other and conduct themselves. And there's not a whole lot you can do about it. We can educate. We can certainly educate people to be better. But ultimately, it is the choice of the individual. And there are so many driving factors, so many chaos factors that will influence how a person really truly reacts in a circumstance under certain stimuli. And you really don't have any control over it. So, should people be better? Yes. Do we need heroes? Yes. It's the simple fact of the matter. It's the what is versus what ought argument. And the simple fact is we can argue about what ought to be all day long, and we should, and we should debate and educate all day long every day. But what it comes down to is we still need to be prepared for reality. We still need to be prepared for the fact that young men in groups at odd hours in dark places is likely trouble. Sorry guys, we're trouble. We have to face the fact that responsibility tends to be ignored in the face of emotion, in the face of feeling good. People are driven by what makes them feel good, first and foremost. And if something makes them feel good right now, and it's easy, they will take that 9 times out of 10 over what's going to make them feel good in the long term. It's just human nature. Can we teach people to be better? Sure. I've seen lots of people train themselves out of those habits, but it is a trained trait to go beyond that. It will never be a genetic trait to do that. So you can play what is versus what ought to be all you want, but the fact is you got to be prepared for what is. And what is happens to be random, sometimes messy, sometimes violent. You just got to know that you may have to run, you may have to fight, You may have to kill. There are all sorts of circumstances that you may have to do that are not part of the ideal world. Be prepared for it. Don't shrivel up and die when something happens that doesn't fit your ideals. Fight for your ideals. But it's never acceptable to be so paralyzed by your ideals that you can't act when things don't go according to plan. Talk to you later. Good journey.